Have you ever found yourself stuck trying to learn something new, feeling overwhelmed by all the advice, techniques, and tools out there, but still not making progress? It's frustrating, right? You've probably tried every hack and strategy under the sun, but nothing seems to stick. Well, what if I told you that the problem isn't the methods or the motivation, it's the approach? Today we're diving into something different, something that might ruffle a few feathers, the pragmatic approach to learning a new skill. This isn't about quick fixes or some motivational speech. It's about rolling up your sleeves, facing the reality of how you learn, and taking action that actually moves the needle. It's raw, it's practical, and it's a strategy that doesn't rely on empty promises. Stick around, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut through the noise, stop overcomplicating things, and finally start mastering that skill you've been dreaming about. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's get into it. Number 1. Fail fast, learn faster. Fail fast, learn faster. Sounds counterintuitive, right? I mean, who wants to fail? It almost feels like we're being set up to fall flat on our faces. But trust me, when I tell you this approach could actually be the secret weapon you've been missing. Yes, I know, it sounds like some motivational speaker's catchphrase, but it's more than just words. It's a mindset, and it can change the way you learn any new skill, from a language to coding, even mastering a new sport. Now, you might be thinking, but failing is uncomfortable, and doesn't it just mean I'm bad at it? Well, let's break it down. You've probably experienced it before. You've started something new, maybe a hobby or a project, and at the beginning it feels like you're stumbling every step of the way. Maybe you're trying to pick up an instrument, or you're trying to figure out a new software, and no matter how many tutorials you watch, you're still not getting it. We've all been there, frustrated, overwhelmed, wondering if it's even worth the effort. Here's the thing, you're not failing in the traditional sense. You're just gathering information, figuring out what doesn't work. And guess what? That's actually progress. This is the fail fast, learn faster approach. Instead of meticulously studying and trying to perfect every tiny detail before taking action, you dive in, make mistakes, and adjust on the go. It's less about getting everything right and more about gaining feedback from your failures. Why? Because each failure teaches you something, where you're going wrong, what you can tweak, and what you can try next. The faster you make those mistakes, the faster you start making progress. Let me give you a real-world example from my own life. A few years ago, I decided to learn video editing. I thought I had everything planned out. I took online courses, watched tutorial after tutorial, but I still felt like something was missing. Everything I created felt stiff, mechanical. Then, one day, I just decided to stop watching tutorials and start creating. I made a few disastrous edits. Seriously, they were cringeworthy. But I learned more in those few failed projects than I did in months of studying. I realized where I was overthinking things and where I could push my creativity. It wasn't about getting it perfect. It was about jumping in and figuring it out. The more I failed, the more I learned. And that's the key. You don't need to be perfect from the start. You just need to start. This method isn't just for video editing or creative skills. It works across the board. The beauty of fail fast, learn faster is that it empowers you. It's about giving yourself the permission to make mistakes, to learn quickly, and to grow in ways you never thought possible. And let me tell you, it feels amazing to stop playing it safe all the time. Instead of feeling like you're always falling behind, you'll feel like you're gaining momentum with every mistake. So, take a deep breath, embrace those early failures, and learn to love them. Because each mistake is a step forward. It's about reclaiming your space, a space where perfection doesn't hold you back, where mistakes aren't the enemy, and where every misstep is a lesson in disguise. Fail fast, learn faster. It's your new mantra. And trust me, it's going to serve you in ways you can't even imagine yet. Number 2, master the minimum. Master the minimum. It's not a phrase you hear often, right? I mean, we're usually taught to go big or go home, right? But here's the thing. What if I told you that the key to mastering anything you want to learn isn't about overloading yourself with endless hours of practice or research? What if I told you it's about focusing on the essentials and mastering just enough to get started, and I mean really starting, faster than you ever imagined? Now I know, you might be thinking, that sounds way too simple. Is that even possible? Yes, trust me on this. It's not just possible, it's powerful. You've been there, haven't you? You want to learn something new and you dive into it with all this enthusiasm. Maybe you want to play guitar, learn a new language, or even start a side hustle. You download all the apps, buy every course, and start binge reading every article you can find. But, after a while, you realize you're overwhelmed. You're stuck in this loop of consuming information, but you're not actually doing anything. Sound familiar? We've all been there, overloading ourselves with too much info and not enough action. The truth is, we often get paralyzed by trying to know everything before we start, but this just holds us back. Here's where master the minimum comes in. Instead of trying to learn everything all at once, focus on the few things that will give you the biggest return on your time and effort. Let's say you want to learn a new language. You don't need to memorize every grammar rule or learn 1,000 vocabulary words right off the bat. Start with the 20% of phrases you'll use every single day. Learn how to say, "Where is the bathroom?" and "How much is this?" Those will get you through more situations than you think. The key is to make sure what you're learning is practical and immediately useful. Once you've got the basics down, you can build from there. Let me give you an example. When I first started editing videos, I was totally caught in the trap of trying to learn everything there was to know. I thought I needed to know every shortcut, every tool, and every effect before I could even make a decent video. But all I was doing was watching tutorials and getting stuck in this cycle of never feeling ready to actually create. One day, I decided to forget all that, and I focused on learning just the basic tools that would allow me to start making videos, cutting, trimming, and adding transitions. I knew these 3 things would let me create something, even if it wasn't perfect. Guess what? I made my first video, and it wasn't amazing, but I had something tangible, and that was the moment I realized I didn't need to know everything to make progress. Mastering the minimum doesn't mean settling for mediocrity. It's about reclaiming your time and energy by focusing on what actually matters. You don't need to learn every single detail right away. You just need to learn enough to get started and build confidence. You might feel that urge to over-explain yourself or to backtrack and double-check everything before you act. But trust me, you don't need to do that. When you focus on the essentials, you move forward faster and you build momentum. Here's the thing. By mastering the minimum, you're giving yourself permission to stop being paralyzed by perfection. You're showing up for yourself with the confidence that you don't need to be flawless to succeed. This is about embracing progress, not perfection. It's about showing yourself that taking action, even if it's imperfect, is better than waiting around for the perfect moment. So, remember this. You don't need to know everything to get started. Master the minimum and watch how far it takes you. Your space, your peace, and your dignity. You're the one who decides how much you need, and you're in control of how you move forward. Number 3. Reject the guru complex. Reject the guru complex. Yes, I said it. You don't need a guru, a mentor, or some self-proclaimed expert to tell you how to live your life or learn a new skill. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but isn't it good to learn from the best? Yes, absolutely. But there's a catch. The problem comes when you start believing that you need to follow one person's method or advice to get ahead, that somehow their way is the only way. Trust me, you don't need to be at the mercy of someone else's process. Yes, trust me on this. You know the type. You've probably seen them everywhere, those so-called gurus who have an answer for everything. They've got the perfect formula for success, the secret strategy that guarantees results, and a fancy title that makes them seem like they've got all the answers. And hey, we've all been there. At some point, we all thought that if we just followed the right person's advice or paid for that magic course, we'd be set. But then, after following the rules, we end up feeling, well, stuck. The results don't come, or maybe we start to feel like we're just copying someone else's life. It's like trying to fit into someone else's shoes. It works for them, but it doesn't quite fit us. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. Rejecting the guru complex is about reclaiming control over your own learning. You see, the guru might have a strategy that works for them, but it might not work for you, and that's okay. The trick is to trust your instincts, experiment with different approaches, and figure out what works for you. It's about taking the advice you find useful, rejecting what doesn't resonate, and finding your own way forward. It's about realizing that no one knows your needs, your rhythm, or your style better than you do. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was obsessed with following the so-called best practices of every successful YouTuber. I mean, they had millions of subscribers, so obviously their formula must work for everyone, right? I tried copying their video style, their editing, even their thumbnails. But guess what? It didn't work. My videos didn't get the same results, and I started feeling like a copycat. I realized I wasn't really tapping into my own creativity. I was too busy trying to follow someone else's playbook. So, I decided to reject the guru complex. Instead of following their exact path, I focused on what made my style unique. I found my own voice, experimented, and let go of the pressure to fit into someone else's mold. And you know what? That's when my content started to feel more authentic. And that's when the engagement started to grow. Rejecting the guru complex isn't just about creativity, it's about your mental peace too. When you stop depending on someone else's blueprint for success, you free yourself from the pressure to do it right. You give yourself permission to make mistakes, try things out, and fail in your own way. And here's the empowering part. This is your journey. No one else's formula is going to work for you the way it worked for them, because you're not them. This is about reclaiming your space, your voice, and your unique process. It's about your growth, and it's much more powerful when it's done on your own terms. So, here's the bottom line. Stop waiting for someone else to show you the way. You don't need a guru to tell you how to live your life or learn a new skill. You've got everything you need inside of you. Trust your own instincts. Trust your own path. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are waiting for you to take control. And when you do, you'll discover a power that no guru can give you. Number 4. Unlearn before you learn. Unlearn before you learn. Now, I know that might sound backwards, but hear me out, because this approach is a game changer. What if I told you that in order to truly master something new, the first step isn't about learning more, but about letting go of the old ways of thinking? You might be skeptical, and that's totally fine. But think about it. We all have these preconceived ideas, habits, and beliefs that hold us back. And before we can fill our minds with new knowledge, we've got to clear out some of the clutter. Yes, trust me on this. It's the secret to unlocking real growth. We've all been there, right? You start something new, a hobby, a project, a career path, and you're so eager to dive in. But there's this voice in the back of your mind telling you, well, I already know how to do this. Whether it's a certain way of thinking or a set of assumptions you've carried with you for years, it can feel like a safety net. But in reality, these old beliefs can trap you in a loop of limiting potential. The hardest part about learning is actually unlearning. You have to make space for the new before you can let the new ideas truly take root. Here's where it gets interesting. Unlearning is about challenging your own assumptions, disrupting the comfort zone you've created with outdated knowledge, and breaking free from patterns that no longer serve you. For example, when I first started learning video editing, I was stuck in the mindset that more effects meant better videos. I tried to pack every transition, every special effect into my work, thinking it would make everything look professional. But the result? Overstuffed, cluttered content that felt chaotic and didn't engage my audience the way I wanted it to. It wasn't until I unlearned the idea that more is always better and embraced simplicity that my videos started to shine. Less was more. I realized that editing isn't about overloading the content, it's about letting the story speak for itself. That shift in mindset, total game changer. Unlearning also frees you from the mental clutter that can create unnecessary stress. Let's be honest, we've all been guilty of thinking we need to do things the right way because we're afraid of making mistakes or looking unqualified. But here's the truth. There is no right way. There's only your way, the one that works for you. When you let go of rigid beliefs, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. You make space to experiment, to fail, and ultimately, to succeed in ways you never expected. This process isn't just about clearing out old beliefs. It's also about giving yourself permission to grow without being shackled by fear of failure or perfection. Imagine approaching a new challenge not with the baggage of needing to do it perfectly, but with the freedom to try and fail, knowing that each mistake is just part of the journey. This is about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity, trusting that it's okay to unlearn what doesn't work, so you can build the path that's uniquely yours. So, here's the powerful takeaway. Before you jump into the next thing you want to learn, take a moment to unlearn. Question the assumptions you've held on to for so long. Clear out the mental clutter and open yourself up to new possibilities. Your space, your peace, and your dignity. They're waiting for you to unlearn the things that hold you back. And once you do, you'll discover a whole new world of opportunity waiting to be explored. Number 5. Social experimentation. Ever thought about conducting your own little social experiment? Now, before you start picturing lab coats and fancy equipment, hear me out. Social experimentation isn't just for scientists or quirky researchers. It's something you can easily do in your everyday life to understand people, break free from old patterns, and even solve problems in unique ways. And I'm not talking about something extreme or invasive. Just simple actions like changing the way you interact with people, observing their reactions, and learning from the patterns you notice. Yes, trust me on this. Experimenting with social dynamics can reveal insights that textbooks never will. You know the type. We've all been there, right? You've been in a situation where you're stuck in a routine or just doing the same thing over and over, and you're getting frustrated because nothing's changing. You're at the mercy of predictable, maybe even boring outcomes. Ever wonder how a slight shift in behavior could spark a completely new response? Social experimentation is about shaking things up, breaking the monotony, and seeing how tiny changes lead to unexpected results. It's less about rigid plans and more about testing the waters, and it can be done in everyday situations. Here's the cool part. Social experiments are less about grand theories and more about trial and error. They're about observing the effects of little actions on the people around you. Let me share an example. I was at a social event the other day, and I noticed that everyone was clumped in their own little groups, sticking to what they knew, avoiding the unknown. So I decided to test a simple theory. What would happen if I intentionally stepped out of my comfort zone and made a small gesture to invite a stranger into the conversation. Now, it wasn't about being overly bold, just a subtle shift in my usual behavior. I smiled, asked a few open-ended questions, and suddenly the dynamic changed. It wasn't just me interacting with people. The room lit up with more people talking and connecting. By simply testing one social change, I shifted the energy in the entire space. I felt empowered, and so did everyone else around me. I was surprised how a small experiment could break down barriers so quickly. This isn't just about fun experiments at parties or events. It's about how social experimentation can empower you to understand and challenge the ways you communicate and connect with others. It's about giving yourself the freedom to experiment without the pressure of having to be perfect or conforming to what's expected. Social experimentation means trying out new behaviors, whether it's the way you approach a difficult conversation, how you lead a team at work, or even how you handle conflict. It's about taking risks and embracing the possibility of new outcomes. And yes, you might fail a few times along the way, but you'll also learn a lot. The beauty of social experimentation is that it offers emotional freedom. You don't have to always get it right, but you gain control over your responses, your interactions, and your life's dynamics. It's not just about the social success you get from others. It's about reclaiming your space and your comfort zone by testing the limits of it. You start to realize that you have more influence over your environment than you may have thought. And once you experience the freedom that comes from it, you'll start trusting yourself more, in social situations and beyond. So take a moment to experiment. Change up how you respond, how you act, and how you approach the people around you. This isn't just about trying to get people to like you more or trying to control everything. It's about observing, learning, and growing. It's about discovering new ways to relate, solve problems, and express yourself. Try testing a theory in a conversation, tweak the way you approach a task, or simply smile at a stranger. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present and open to the unexpected. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are yours to shape. Social experimentation is your invitation to take control and truly explore the world around you. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching. I really hope this video gave you some new perspectives on how to approach learning a new skill in a way that's practical and, most importantly, effective. If you found this helpful, please give it a like. It really supports the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this to help you tackle real-life challenges head-on. If you know someone who's been struggling with learning something new, share this video with them. It could be exactly what they need to hear. I'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing your experiences or thoughts on the pragmatic approach to learning. Let's keep this conversation going and learn from each other's journeys. Remember, learning isn't about perfection, it's about progress. So, keep pushing, keep experimenting, and trust the process. Until next time, stay curious, stay practical, and keep mastering the skills that matter most to you.